All right.
I'm so glad we picked cool music for this. I get to listen to it every single time.
I feel bad for those countries where the licensing rights for this are not available, and they can't hear it every week. They can't hear the music at all. But.
That's too bad. Well, good morning. Speaking of, good morning. And welcome to the latest episode of the Project Failure Files, the series for anyone who manages people, projects, or processes for a living. I am Sharon Weaver, CEO of Smarter Consulting.
And I'm Christian Buckley, trying to get comfortable here, founder of Collab Talk. Welcome to another episode of the series where Sharon and I explore leadership and management topics from the perspective of what not to do.
And today is our third of 5 episodes in our this is like our sub series, right?
Mini.
Oh, right. We're a mini series. Okay. So this is a third of 5 episodes in our mini series where we're focusing on topics related to AI technology. So you can tell it's live because we're just like talking about AI technology within the enterprise and how AI is going to impact how we lead and manage people. So let's start with the blunt truth. If your AI initiative lives entirely inside IT, it's probably already underperforming.
Yep.
Today, we're going to talk about the mistake of treating AI just like any other system rollout.
Yeah, the mistake here is treating this like, okay, there's a new platform, there's new licenses, we're going to roll it out. We'll look at adoption being licenses that are signed up. We can confirm people have logged into it. Maybe we schedule some training sessions. We slap together an adoption plan. We check the deployment box, deployed, and we move on. Yeah, done.
Done. Yeah. The problem is AI is not just another tool in the stack. If you haven't noticed, it fundamentally changes how we work, how decisions get made, how workflows happen, how processes go, how teams collaborate.
Yeah. When AI gets framed as an IT project, the business then waits. And this is not knocking IT. We both come from the IT world, but we've got a lot of things on our plate. Adoption then slows, ownership blurs, and the impact ends up being incremental instead of transformational.
Now, Christian. Now, I heard that transformation word again. I've been hearing that transformation word for a long time.
Are you feeling transformed yet?
I am feeling transformed. Yeah.
Transform-esque.
And along the same lines, when we talk about digital transformation, when we go to modern work, right? Everybody saw that as a software implementation issue. Right. And it's not just like digital transformation, modernization. This isn't just a software implementation problem. It's an operating model shift. It touches everything, processes, governance, performance, culture, all of it.
Yeah. It's, I've seen organizations that they celebrate, hey, we had this one successful pilot. We're ready to go. It was like a pilot inside a single department. And then they wonder why, okay, I forgot to do it. We did this last couple episodes. A pilot. We're air quote it, a pilot. But they do it once, maybe 2 small pilots inside other groups, and then wonder why the rest of the enterprise isn't engaged. It's siloed success. It looks good on a slide, but it rarely scales.
Yeah, no, 100%. AI it requires shared enterprise level ownership. IT is going to make sure that it's stable, secure. You can integrate it with the other applications.
Compliance.
It follows your policy, compliance, governance, compliance. But the business has to make sure that it's usable. They have to think about things like relevance, accountability, measurable outcomes. Both matter.
I feel like you could have slipped the word governance in at least 2 or 3 more times. I'm just
governance.
Saying,
Governance.
But until AI moves from this interesting experiment that we're doing to really a daily operational habit, it is just an experiment. It is just a demo.
Yeah, exactly. And, you and I train on this on a pretty regular basis. And I think when you think about the idea of embedding AI into everyday work, not just adding it to the stack, not just doing something that's new, but actually integrating it into the things that you're doing already, that's where the real value happens. And that requires cross-functional leadership, cross-functional enterprise application, architecture, cross-functional everything, not just a ticketing system.
You can't tell, Sharon and I, we have feelings about this topic. Something we experiment, something that we're involved in. So, as always, it should be a direct and timely conversation. We definitely want to hear from you down the comment section. Let us know what you're thinking, stories that you've had, if you'd like to share. We'd love to hear more from you, whether you've experienced anything that we discussed today. And we'd also love you to get more involved in the show. Make sure that you subscribe and join us every Monday when we come to you at 9 a.m. Pacific every Monday, always, forever.
Endeavor.
Yes.
So let's get started with some definitions.
Yeah, so I think of this too, like treating AI as an IT project. It's that mistake of managing AI like as you said, a traditional software deployment. It is, we look at it for the technical factors. Here's what it does. Here's the features. We'll train people on the features. They've got the licenses. They're signed up. We've done a training class. All right, they're onboarded and we're done.
Mm-hmm. Rolled out, done. Check.
Yeah, AI doesn't show up to your organization asking for a server rack and go live date. It shows up asking, like, who makes decisions here? How does work actually flow? And is anyone willing to change? Those generally aren't IT questions.
Oh, more importantly, have you tried me yet? Yeah. I'm a cool new tool that can do everything and make all of your wishes come true. But have you tried me yet? Oh, am I part of your governance and policy for your organization? Maybe not.
Yeah. Well, this goes back to what we've talked about in the last couple of episodes too, is that, you know, AI is is an overall strategy for the organization, but it's implemented in very different ways. You have companies like Microsoft made a decision to run full down the path towards AI. Every individual product, every feature team was chartered with figuring out, how do we improve this? How do we add AI? Where does it make sense to add features, add capabilities, as well as using the technology in that build process?
Yeah. And I think about, you know, we've been in this game a while, right? And I think back to when I was younger and there would be cool new things that came out, or, you know, access to certain things, and that would be limited to the IT group, right? The IT group are the only people who got to do it, only people who had access to it, only people who got to try it out because it was expensive or risky or required technical knowledge or whatever you want to say the answer is. And I always felt like that was really frustrating because the business users didn't get to experience some of those same things. And then eventually they would think about rolling it out to the business users. But what always ended up happening is that the business users would find something better that was outside of the organization that they were using on their own by the time we actually caught up to letting them participate. So I think there really is this very gigantic risk in allowing AI to be an IT thing.
Right. PwC put it plainly. It's a great quote. Technology delivers only about 20% of an initiative's value. The other 80% comes from redesigning the work itself. So if your AI strategy is 100% focused on the tech stack, you're chasing 20 cents on the dollar. Well, I love that perspective.
Yep. Well, yeah, because it's so much more than infrastructure and applications. You know, I'm teaching people how to change the way they think, how to ask different questions, how to make different decisions, how to redo processes. You know, this isn't just an application that will do something for you. This is changing the way that we work on a day-to-day basis.
Talking about change and cultural and project change, you know, what kind of changes are you seeing, Sharon?
I'm seeing people literally change how they go at things. So think about it this way. I have leaders that I work with that are like, we have already defined our initiatives for the year. And I teach them how to use AI to ask better questions, gather more information, do better analysis. And they're coming back and saying, I think we're going to revisit our initiatives, not because they weren't right or because they, think that AI is going to change the way that those initiatives need to be laid out, but by using AI to help them identify, ideate, and analyze, they are now able to come back and ask better questions and do bigger things and have a better forecasting plan. And so I think ultimately, when we talk about project failure files, like what not to do, right, is don't let it get out there. Don't let people see it. Don't let people use it. Put as many limitations around as possible, because we definitely don't want the business trying to use this.
And that's a lot of that is fear driven. It's like people are out there experimenting. They're doing this with the technology and something goes wrong. We're the ones that are going to be blamed. And I'm not saying that that's not true in a lot of organizations, but it is something that we do need to change that culture, because when you lock down any of the new, cool, innovative stuff, two things happen. Business adoption slows because it's being driven at everything else that IT has on their plates. It's going to be behind all those things. At the same time, you've got the shadow IT, the shadow AI that's happening. There's nothing you can do to put the cork back in that bottle. It's out. The genie is out. People are experimenting with that. But the reality though is, from a company perspective, as long as AI lives inside of IT, the business will not adopt it the same way. The business waits for it, and waiting is not a transformation strategy. It's this, you see more and more like siloed success that doesn't go, it takes longer. I'll say not that it doesn't happen. Everything takes longer that way. It needs to be the business that is driving a lot of the initiatives. It just needs to be done the right way.
Well, they need to do it together. And this is the thing. I think when you think about, again, like digital transformation, this is more than an application. This is a way of working. And I think ultimately, culturally, if only the business rolls it out, then IT is not on board because they don't want to have to support. If only IT is on board, then the business is like, no, we don't want to do that. It's this idea that you have to do it holistically. You have to have leadership together, jointly looking at how can AI change better, what kind of ROI can we get out of this together, and how can the business drive adoption and change management and getting value out of it, and how can IT support and help to make sure that you've got governance, risk, and compliance covered, so that holistically everybody gets more out of it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts too in this idea that, of this, if AI experimentation is optional? I mean, I think of like the way that we work, the stuff that we do together. It's not. It's almost like matter of fact. Like, have you looked at this yet? I'm not looked. Like, oh no, to what is that thing? So it's constantly, because again, there's so much that's happening so fast. One person cannot keep up with all of the things that are out there. So you almost need to kind of divide and conquer. I want that spread across my organization. I'm much more likely to find disparate pieces that fit us and what problems we're trying to solve, the culture of our organization, if everyone is experimenting.
Yeah, no, if you're not allowing that, let's put this frankly, it is happening. It just, if you want it to happen within your organization and be transparent about it, you need to support it. You need to back it up. You need to ask those questions, because otherwise it's happening. It's just happening around the edges. And guess where your corporate data is going for those experiments to happen. And so ultimately, I think it might feel that way, but I think it's really about the culture driving. I'm going to do this. Am I going to do it in plain sight of my leadership and my coworkers? And are we going to do it together? And are we going to drive value? Or am I going to go over here and do it outside of my organization? And maybe my organization doesn't get the value of me learning those things.
Yeah. I just keep thinking it's like the biggest risk with AI isn't this spectacular failure that everybody sees. It's this quiet mediocrity. It's the licenses got purchased. the training sessions, they happened. There's an adoption plan around it for that one team. But again, it's this isolated, this siloed success. If there was much success to it over in that other group. And so I would even then adoption kind of plateaus after that training because, okay, how does this fit in? Where do we go from here? How do we build on that? And I just think that, again, the old playbook you're not rolling out a new version of Microsoft Word and Excel, and where people basically get it. No, it is a fundamental change in how we're looking at our data, how we're utilizing this.
Yeah, well, and I think that's something, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, but this isn't just implementing, like you said, it's not implementing something we already know, or at least we already understand. This is something that it requires change management and adoption at the same time, because this is a tool set that is new to most people. And so there's a level of change management adoption that's happening at the same time that IT is trying to get it rolled out. Like they're learning a lot of it as quickly as they're implementing it within the organization, which is not the same as almost anything else that we've ever dealt with.
Yeah. I think it's that difficult place where we are, where I think there's the technology adoption curve in the first place. I think with a lot of people, we got past this like height of all the buzz, the excitement, and there's that trough that it goes into of reality. And what comes out of that is people understand the practical application. It's like there's the fanboys, and then you've got the haters, and then you've got the practical application. The people are like, okay, now I get it. Here's where it actually fits. And I think we're all kind of waiting for that to get the upward growth after the trough. And that, I mean, there's constantly, you're on that curve. It's not like it's one curve and here's we are. But I think that's where a lot of people are, where we're now looking around. I know I am, I'm most interested in hearing real world scenarios and the results, the outputs from those scenarios. I don't want to hear the marketing stuff from the providers that are out there. I understand what it's capable of doing. I want to see actual application of that. So there's gravitation towards those real world stories, those real experiences, which is one of the reasons why I love teaching classes, doing workshops around this, and kind of seeing that in action, and sometimes literally seeing people's like eyes go like, oh, I see where this fits, and love those kinds of stories.
Yeah. So what are some of the pitfalls, I think, of letting IT manage and be responsible for rolling AI out?
Well, I mean, I think with that adoption plateau, because again, it's looked at just another tool and hey, I'll get to it kind of thing. But that also means that when it's treated that way, that a lot of business leaders then look at it as, okay, it's an implementation. Well, we implement it. Well, no, we have AI. Right. It's that check mark. And so they move past that. And instead of looking at it as a fundamental change in the way that we're working and something that should be part of the strategy. Part of what makes it difficult, though, I don't know, my opinion on this, Sharon, is that it's because AI is so much more of there are things that you could do process-wide and for corporate and other things that are bigger. I just think of the value it provides to each individual. Mm-hmm. I think of that value. I mean, the time of, like look at now, like where we're automatically grabbing the transcript and it's summarizing and providing notes and action items out of every single meeting. Mm-hmm. To be able to go in, you were talking earlier about, I love this for an organization that has, you've got your annual, like, here's our 3 pillars. This is what we're focused on in 2026. To be able to go back and leverage AI to keep on track of how am I aligning towards my personal goals, which feed into my team goals, which feed into the organizational goals, which roll up to those corporate goals. Like, are we making progress on this? Where do these things fit? Or how does these tasks that I'm doing, how can I better communicate this with this other team? How can I, in shaping communications and emails, in helping provide, I mean, there's a big part of my life for so many years where my team owned all the data from all these systems, including these SharePoint servers and ticketing system and all of these other tools and systems, and reporting off of all of those different things. And every senior person wanted their reports in a different flavor, a different look, a different way for those things. And now we are truly with AI, to ask natural language questions and to decipher all of this raw data, massive amounts of data, to find trends, to find insights. Again, it's just something that, like, we didn't have that tool, not like that. It took, think about that. I would have to collect all the data first, then normalize that, scrub that data, get it into a format, which then I could go build a dashboard against and slice and dice and get all the inputs and tweak and build all that out there, then to read it and then to interpret what we're reading. All of that, where AI can go and look at all that raw data and do that in seconds and give you those insights.
So what I hear is, if you treat AI implementation as just another application and IT is responsible for it, you're probably not going to see the true ROI of what AI can do for your organization.
Right. I think it takes the business owners, each with their different perspectives, their areas. Somebody in marketing, there's value for marketing that's not going to resonate with the product team, with the sales organization, with HR. Each of them are going to have different. That's one of the mistakes of doing a siloed pilot and look at that data result. You have to look at that pilot as far as the functional results of that pilot versus the business results of that, because it's going to be different for each of those different organizations. I don't know, Sharon, it's always like you need to have a consultative approach with the deployment of AI, of how it actually fits in, to explain it to each of those stakeholder organizations.
Yeah, I definitely think that organizations need to understand what problem they're solving with it. Because I think, whenever you implement anything, whenever you buy a new product or a new service, you're identifying a problem that needs to be solved. That's why you procure, right? Is to solve problems. And if you buy something because somebody told you you need it, but you don't understand what problem it's solving, then you have no idea how to measure whether or not it's actually solving your problem, because you don't know what your problem is to begin with. And so I think ultimately, when you go down this path of saying, well, it's just another IT project, it's just another tool application, it's just another implementation. I mean, how many of those have we seen fail spectacularly because they picked something somebody told them was going to be, a cool tool, but they didn't have any idea what problem they were solving or how they were going to try to solve it. And I don't think AI is any different. If you work together at an organizational level to say, what problems do we currently have in our organization that need to be solved? And can AI solve them? And if so, how? All of a sudden, you leverage this in a way that you probably wouldn't otherwise.
The funniest and saddest version of this is when an executive says, like, we bought AI.
I just went down to the store and bought a box of it.
Sharon, I just don't worry about it. I bought transformation.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, got it.
We are transformed.
It's in the cart. Well, it's not cleared my card yet, but it's in the cart, the digital cart. No, what you've done is you've purchased potential, but potential without ownership, potential without understanding of the business goals and desired outcomes of the problem you're trying to solve. It's kind of like what we talked about last time is, if you just got a mess of data, we're going to throw AI at it. It's like, no, it works best when you've cleaned up all of those things and you've defined what are the workflows, what are the things, and where are the greatest opportunities for automation. What do we think we can achieve? That's part of where the measurement of success comes from, is here's what we're doing today. Now that we've automated through, with AI's help, here's what we're doing on the other end. It's 2 times faster, 5 times faster. It's, whatever that is, increased output here. That is the measurement of success. But again, that is going to be different. It's not just a tool and it has a uniform value for everyone, but it needs to be customized, personalized, on the right way to phrase that, for the users and for each part of the organization.
So
a slightly different story.
So let's talk about that. I think let's give everybody maybe some more specific strategies for getting past this. We've kind of danced around it quite a bit. But I mean, the first thing is that if you have right now AI as an IT initiative, hopefully your IT group is, excited about this and they're supporting it and all of that. But ultimately, you need to expand that championship beyond IT into any and all business units that are willing to kind of get behind it. And I think about this, I've done enterprise initiatives before. I've done enterprise initiatives. I've done them around LMS systems. I've done them around search. I've done them around optimization in certain areas like, security or governance or things like that. And ultimately, I think AI is just one of those things where you're really going to need to bring more than just the IT department to the table to ultimately get something beneficial out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's having those discussions, figuring out. Again, I'm not going to go and over to the sales organization and say, and you are also responsible for marketing team's AI strategy. Just like I'm not going to go ask IT to say you are responsible for marketing's AI strategy, the sales organization's AI strategy. Mm-hmm. Like, no, they need to own their areas. The leaders from each of those areas must understand it enough and be responsible for their own strategies and why it's unique to them. IT might own and lead like the governance aspect of all of this, of here's what the tools are, here are the guardrails for using these things, but the business results, the owners, the more valuable thing is owned by each of those different groups. So that's why I go back to what we talked about last week, having that governance committee, that steering committee, is such an important aspect of this. But it also does help with the overall adoption. So it helps with the culture of the organization, where they can, celebrate each other's wins, learn from each other. There are things that there will be overlaps. There are things that can be shared. But having that shared accountability, it really does drive enterprise level impact.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think when you do that, speaking of everybody at the table and have those cross-functional groups, to make sure everything's happening the way that it needs to, you can now look at your initiatives holistically at a business level and say, why are we doing this? And instead of tracking how many people are using the tool, and change it instead to what problem are we trying to solve in the organization, and how are we doing that, and how has it changed since we've implemented AI, is a very different conversation.
Yeah, it's the tracking of qualitative versus quantitative. I mean, it is important to track things like, are people more productive? Yeah, but what's the quantitative measure? What does that actually translate into? It usually is like more output or fewer errors or fewer tickets or whatever those things are. I mean, figure that out. It's something that you can be a bit creative on, but the end result of that is a measurement on productivity and whether this moved the needle there. Revenue is something that's easier to go and track. Risk reduction by tickets, by the mean time to resolution of active tickets out there. How long does it get us to solve problems? Those kinds of things. The customer experience, again, measurements out there of whether we've been doing it this way and our customers are happier. Their what is it? The net rating of it, jumps up in a full point or a half point. These are all things that you can tie to these initiatives that you're rolling out to show what success looks like and how AI helped move the needle there. But again, it comes back to exactly what you said. You need to define it up front. You need to have clear outcomes or goals behind that. You need to have, how are we measuring this success? And then you need to not just look at one way of doing things, pilot in one area, but you should have each area of the business that is piloting some aspect of this new technology and then letting it grow organically.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that idea of, that kind of not just dual ownership of IT in the business, but enterprise level ownership of all of the different leaders that are coming to the table to be able to share, getting the value out of it and put some metrics around that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for like, what are we talking about? Because we're talking these broad themes and things out there. I mean, great example is, one class, in fact, we were doing the workshop together last year where a woman said, we have, so she was a tech writer and they had hundreds of old like JPEGs or GIFs or something of workflows of old business processes that were in paper documents, and that they were given the charter to go and digitize all those things. So they had a digital version of each of those things, but the source files were long gone. And so that she wanted to go in and say, I need to input this diagram, this image, like a JPEG, feed it in there, workflow with boxes and triangles and lines, kind of tracking the process flow. It says, I need it to generate, what is the documentation? What's the written word version of what's on paper, so that she could then, most of them needed updates to the workflow. And then she needed to generate new workflow images. And so it was able to do the first two steps brilliantly. So it was able to go in, digitize it, create the documentation. She updates that. It took a bit more work. This is a year ago. It's advanced enormously now. And more and more integrations. Yeah. In fact, I want to go play with like Visio or Miro or one of these other, tools out there to generate the brand new workflows. But it can automate all of that. That would, if you've never, think about that. If I had to go and open up Visio, blank page, recreate each of those process flows, that would take me maybe 30 to 60 minutes per workflow at least, plus to create the documentation off of each one of those things and then update that, make sure that the updated written process is reflected in the new diagram. I mean, again, that would be something I say, if you were incredibly fast, maybe 2 hours per diagram, and it again could do it within, seconds.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I think the key to all of this, Sharon, is going and looking at stories like that. How do we embed this into our daily work? Mm-hmm. Go and find those areas where I'm doing this thing. It's taking me a long time. Here's the multiple steps, repeated steps to go and do. I just shared this other example with you where I go and I monthly collect all of the links from all of these various websites. There's like 50 different links to go and gather. Instead, I put in a prompt, a very detailed prompt, and it went and built the list for me almost perfectly the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think, and this is exactly the point, is if you think that you're paying for AI as a tool set and you're like, how are people going to use the tool? One of the best practices that I would say is think about it as a transformation service, as a capability,
right?
As something
not a project.
Yeah, not a project.
Capability. Right.
Exactly.
Projects have end dates. Capabilities evolve. We learn from them. If your AI initiative has a go live date and a closeout meeting, you've already framed it as something that finishes.
Yeah.
And transformation is something that's ongoing. It's a cultural change moving to AI, not a technology deployment.
Yeah.
This is something I just keep thinking this too, Sharon, is that we need to train our leaders, not just our users. I mean, they are really the people who need to understand AI the most. It's not the people creating the prompts. It's those that are deciding what the organization does with the output.
Yeah, I think, AI transformation truly is enterprise level. It's an enterprise commitment. It's an enterprise engagement. And I think ultimately everybody should be involved.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that you could say broadly. Like, it's great to go in and relook at your KPIs, look at those pillars, like corporate, like, what are we doing? What is our overall strategy? Sure, of course. And you can redesign your KPIs that roll up to those annual targets. All those things are going to be impacted. But I think that it is going to take an enterprise-wide commitment to do all that. But the most important thing is, again, goes back to training those leaders.
Yeah, agreed. So do we have any calls to action?
Yeah, I like this. I like to make it very tactical, Sharon. I think like this week, if you ask one simple question inside your organization, in your team meeting, just say, who owns AI outcomes? Not who manages the tools, manages the platform. That's IT team that owns that. But who is accountable for the business results? And if that answer is unclear, that's the first problem you need to solve.
Yeah. Well, and if it's unclear, maybe another call to action is identify something that AI should influence so that you can measure it.
Yeah. And the best way to do that, get IT and your business unit into the same room and have a conversation. It's not about demoing a tool, walking through, but agreeing on what success looks like. And that might end up being partly a demo as you're walking through, talking through what you're going to go and do, what you're going to measure, how you're going to measure that. But that single conversation will move you further than another pilot ever will.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much for watching this episode. That's it for this week. Be sure to follow us and subscribe. So recordings, of course, available out on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube channel at Project Failure Files, and then you can, of course, subscribe to our Substack newsletter at projectfailurefiles.substack.com as well. And I think I've got them in the right order there. I think I sometimes swap the two, but you'll figure it out. If you just type in Project Failure Files and then the word Substack and search, you'll find us. But please subscribe to that. Get our weekly thoughts around what's happening with the series. And we'll be back. So this was number 3. We've got 2 more in this series talking about AI, but we'd love for you to join us next Monday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific.
Yep. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
See you later.